Well, I hope you like defense because the Toronto Raptors turned the clock back to 1992 with this one. Wow. What a defensive effort game in which nobody really played all that well. Shots were clanking left, right, and center. The Toronto Raptors end their 5-game Super Bowl winning streak, losing their first game ever. But there is another streak that we need to talk about, which is 6 straight double-digit games for Jacoby Walter. Big development there. And I think this is a very mixed bag game in which a lot of things have to be discussed with nuance. Obviously, whenever a game like this happens for Scottie Barnes, abysmal shooting percentages, 0 for 8 from 3. There's going to be a lot of trolls. There's going to be a lot of people saying, man, I know Darko Rajakovic has been coaching for God knows how many years, but I, Joe Schmo on the internet, I, who topped out in middle school at basketball, I know more. This guy needs to get in the paint. You will hopefully have an education. You're probably going to be very triggered with what I have to say. We also got to talk about Brandon Ingram. We got to talk a lot about Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram got his first workout in with the Raptors today. Very excited about Brandon Ingram. But there's something that's been happening with Brandon Ingram, frankly, systematically over the last 2 years, that a certain podcast continued the tradition of, and we got to talk about that too. So we're going to talk about that right after the film session. Make sure to get this video a like and subscribe. Okay, let's take a look at what happened here. The Toronto Raptors, losers of 4 straight. The Houston Rockets, losers of 6 straight. Which team's losing streak would end? And it wasn't going to be the Raptors. I'll be honest. The Raptors really outplayed the Houston Rockets in the first 3 quarters. But that fourth quarter, it was like the floodgates of, I don't know. The seas parted, man. The seas parted, and the Rockets just started hitting shots suddenly, and the Rockets outscored the Raptors. I mean, this was a tale of really 2 games. There was everything before the fourth quarter, and then there was everything after. The Raptors held the Rockets to 18, 19, and 21 points, respectively, in the first three quarters. The fourth quarter, it was 36 points. Jalen Green got going. Jeff Green got going. Amen Thompson finally got free. I thought this was just, zigsaw puzzle. Clearly a fan of the tank world order, saying, God bless Jeff Green. 38-year-old Jeff Green had some slams, man, some posters. This guy was awesome today. Good for Jeff Green, man. Super pro. Been following his career for a very, very long time. Very happy for him. Yes, your eyes are not mistaking you. The Raptors took over 43s. Wait till you see who shot what. Jonathan Mobile went 0 for 6. Scottie Barnes went 0 for 8. Grady went 0 for 4. You got to memorize this box score, man. This is like historic shit right here. The Raptors shoot under 40%. The Houston Rockets shoot under 40%. Both teams shoot under 27% from 3. This will not be on, hardwood classics. This game will not make that. I'm sorry to tell you. I mean, but if you're a fan of defensive basketball, if you're a fan of compete, if you're a fan of rotations, if you're a fan of block shots, this was your type of matchup, man. And a lot of good stuff and mixed stuff from Immanual Quickley. Obviously, Jama Malalela at the half said a big part of what the Raptors are doing right now, hint, hint, they're not trying to win, is trying to get chemistry between their oil and water combination of Scottie Barnes and Immanual Quickley, 2 players who have had really weird synergy. Now, Scottie has worked very well with RJ Barrett. He has had moments with Grady Dick. He's even had moments with Jakob Poeltl. Previously to this, he's had great moments with OG. Usually those 2 had a great net rating as a pair. He's had great moments with Pascal. But for some reason, he's even had great moments with Fred, actually, over the first 2 years. But something about the Scottie Immanual Quickley pairing, they just can't get it right. So why not use the rest of this season to make sure your 2 highest paid players at this moment, soon to be 2 of your 3 highest paid players, can find some synergy on the court. And, I think Immanual Quickley had good moments in the first half, a little bit more shot making. He hit the first 5 points of the game. It was good. It was good. And then there were obviously some really terrible decisions, some missed passes, a little bit of shuffle pass, throws it at a guy's foot. That's the work in progress with Immanual Quickley. But you do see the vision of a $32 million player if this works out, right? He's got a really slow load release on the 3. So he can't really operate out of a phone booth. He can't just pull up on a dime like Devin Booker or someone with a really smooth release that is high. It's low release and it's slow. And he's 6'3", and he's got really long arms. So Unfortunately, that means what the Raptors have to do is find space for Immanual Quickley to operate. And of course, with Brandon Ingram back, with RJ Barrett back, Immanual Quickley should be free to feast. But right now, what the Raptors are doing is they're trying to run their offense through Immanual Quickley, which means his decision making is going to be paramount. And the Raptors struggled. They really struggled to generate great shots. I think the Rockets played hard. I do. But I think Cam Whitmore, shout outs to Cam Whitmore, deserves a little bit of credit for being a bit of a momentum swinger in that second half. He had 11 points off the bench. Jock Lawndale, shout outs Jock Lawndale. A lot of people thought he was very, very overpaid at $8 million. He had 11 points, 10 rebounds. Easy to do, perhaps, when the other team is playing Orlando Robinson and Jonathan Mobo at center, I guess. I got to tell you, I'm very impressed with Jonathan Mobo. You see 0 for 6, you see a bum. I see 0 for 6, I see a guy who didn't take threes last year. And again, we're going to philosophically disagree. Some of us are going to philosophically disagree. I had to block a long time, commenter on X today because I was just sick and tired of the Draymond Green stuff with Scottie Barnes. Look, man, I get where this is going. You don't have to believe me. I understand, 0 for 8 never looks good. Maybe 2 for 8 doesn't look good. It's just these numbers. They're just numbers. You know what I mean? You got to look at how these threes are being taken. You got to see okay, if he makes 3 of those, you're saying this is the greatest game of his life. You know what I mean? So it's funny how finicky we are about makes and misses. But what I'm very impressed with is that Scottie continues to take threes, and they're good threes. They are good threes. They're good threes for a good 3-point shooter, which he's not right now. And we can all agree on that. Scottie is not a good 3-point shooter right now. He's shooting abysmal percentages. What I love, though, is that he's not shying away from it. And what I love about Jonathan Mobo is earlier in the season, you would see hesitation on those threes, and now he's just pulling them. You know what? You gotta do 2 things at once. Number 1, you got to develop the shooting. Number 2, you got to develop the shot mechanics. Number 3, you actually have to get comfortable taking those shots in game. And sometimes you have to get comfortable taking a shot in a game that you're not ready to take yet. And that's the entire Raptors development philosophy. You see Grady and Jakobi just throwing their body at the rim. Are they strong enough to finish those shots at a high percentage? No. So what do winning teams do? They say, well, you're not making those at a high clip, so we're going to stand you in the corner until you can. Well, what does that do? It slows down development. It's the same thing with a non-shooter. We will work with you in the lab, we'll work with you in practice, but when it comes to the games, you're not taking those because you're not making those. And I just disagree with that philosophy on a development team. If the Raptors were chasing a championship and Scottie was going 0 for 8, I'd be like, get your ass in the paint, go drive, go do that stuff. We don't need to see more samples of him doing that stuff because we've already seen that stuff. We know he can do it. We've seen him put 18, 19 points in a fourth quarter in his second year against Giannis. We don't need to keep seeing him do that. There was no real rim protection for the Houston Rockets today. Alperen Sengun goes out. Injuries were a huge part of this game. Huge part of this game. I mean, let's just talk about that briefly. RJ Barrett out, Brandon Ingram out, Scottie Barnes, they're not going to say he's injured, but nursing that twisted ankle from a few games ago, and his percentages have sort of dipped. We've seen it around the rim. Still struggling with that. And yeah, that's a lot to make up for. Jakob, Poeltl, RJ Barrett, Scottie, you're missing three fifths of your starting lineup. And oh, by the way, Grady Dick takes an elbow to the head from Amen Thompson in the second quarter, and now he's out for the game. On the other side, Fred VanVleet is out, Jabari Smith is out, Tari Eason is out. That's a big break. Steven Adams was out. You may not rate Steven Adams, but if Steven Adams was in this game, given the lack of size for the Raptors, given his penchant for offensive rebounding, he might have had 28 rebounds today. The Raptors were small, but they competed. They competed very, very hard. But injuries were a huge part of this game. And one of these teams stockpiles veterans like Jock Landale and Jeff Green at the end of their bench. And the other stockpiles second round and undrafted guys at the end of their bench. So when you go to the bench, what's going to happen? In the first half, we can take a look at it. Shoot. I think the Raptors were like +8, +9 with Scottie and Immanual Quickley on the floor, but those guys went off the floor and it wasn't the same thing. If you want to look at the score at the half, at halftime, the Raptors were up 42-37. 42-37 is a very low scoring game. Like, there are first quarters that are 42-37. And believe me, it was not for naught. The film session is going to be very revealing in terms of how the Raptors managed to keep all these shooters at bay and really, really shut down Amen Thompson and Jalen Green. I think they're getting much better defensively. I have been very impressed with the Raptors' defensive process. And oh, by the way, this was defense without two very, very vital defensive pieces, which is Davion Mitchell, who's gone, right? He was contributing majorly to your defense, and Jakob Poeltl, who is the center, in this equation, who stabilizes the back end of your defense. And I think Jonathan Mobo and Scottie Barnes did a lot to cannibalize some of those drives and, just help side rotations. I think they were very, very competent tonight. Very competent. Okay. So overall, I mean, you want to look at the team stats. I mean, it's a oh, close your eyes. 40 points in the paint for the Raptors, 32 points in the paint for the Rockets. Do you know how hard it is to hold the team to 32 points when your tallest player is 6'8"? I mean, shoot. Yes, Alperen Sengun went out in the first quarter. Had he played, he probably would have had 30 points tonight, given the Raptors' lack of size. The Raptors forced them into more turnovers, 15 turnovers, right? And believe me, it wasn't just stupid turnovers where they were dribbling it off their foot, though. The Raptors forced a lot of turnovers with high pressure point and a lot of really just good collapses and good tight double teams. I think their communication was good overall. 6 blocks for the Raptors, 5 steals for the Raptors. Overall, 48-58. They got beat on the glass. That was to be expected. Free throw percentage, respectable. The Raptors are one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the league. But that 3-point shooting percentage, man. And let's see who went what. As I mentioned, Jonathan Mobo, 0 for 6. 6 would be a career high for him, I think, on pretty much any level. I think there was a game where he's like 5 in the G League where he went 3 for 5. He goes 0 for 6 tonight. Scottie Barnes, 0 for 8. Immanual Quickley, 3 for 9. Ochai Agbaji, plus Grady Dick, combined 0 for 5. Off the bench, Chris Boucher, Jamison Battle, 0 for 5. And then you had 3 guys who did a pretty decent job. Orlando Robinson, not a great 3-point shooter, but someone with shooting potential. He went 1 for 1. Scottie Barnes found him for that. He was pretty competent tonight, plus 3 with 9 rebounds. He was like the only big that the Raptors had, traditional big. And Jamal Shead and Jacoby Walter. We got to talk about these two because they were making a homecoming. This is cool. Jacoby Walter is from McKinney, Texas. And that's about 4 hours, 4-hour drive from Houston, a little bit closer to Dallas, I think. But this was a bit of a homecoming for him. I'm sure he had some family in the crowd, some friends in the crowd. He certainly had some friends and family over in OKC, Oklahoma City, obviously very, very close to Texas. And Jamal Shead, I mean, the winningest player in college basketball the last few years, the second winningest Houston Cougar ever. Everyone was making a really big deal about the fact that the Raptors chose to practice in the Houston Cougars gym, which was very cool. And you just felt, that the Raptors were going to come out with this type of energy. The Houston Cougars under Jamal Shead were a very defensively oriented team. Jamal Shead, obviously, a very accomplished defensive player. And I think he just played so great. To people wondering, why did Immanual Quickley not play more minutes in the second half? Well, you dummy, he's on a minutes restriction. And oh, by the way, his backup point guard, I believe, outplayed him. Jamal Shead was awesome. I really do believe that. I think he was awesome tonight. He went 6 for 9 from the field, 14 points, relentless attacking the paint, 2 assists. Not entirely his fault. He found shooters. They missed, but he was scoring, and he figured it out really early. There was no paint defense, so he would stop. His body control is great. His burst is good. His handle is tight, and he's getting comfortable taking those threes, man. 2 for 3 from 3 for Jamal Shead. Love it. So again, at some point, you're gonna see an 0 for 6 performance from Jonathan Mobo. But you know what? You miss every single shot you don't take. So the way I see it, may not be the right way to see it, but the way I see it, at some point, he's going to go 4 for 6, and you're going to be like, wow. Jonathan Mobo also had 4 blocks, so that was impressive as well. Overall. Okay, let's take a look. Nameless saying Shead was incredible. I appreciate you. Would Shead be a lottery pick in the redraft? No, he wouldn't. But he would probably be pushing for first round, for sure. I think a team would be silly not to take him in the 20s. I think Jacoby could be pushing the early teens, maybe even the late lottery. I think Jonathan Mobo will be pushing like early 20s, late 20s with all he's shown. I think Jamison Battle is probably pushing the 40s, maybe late 30s, 40s, something in there. And Ulrich, I honestly, like, if I'm a general manager, I'm taking Ulrich in the first round 100% of the time. So again, we're going to talk about the draft at some point. We definitely will. We will. There's so many things to talk about. I thought many times over yesterday, do a live about this subject, that subject. And I'm like, no. Hold it back, because we're going to tighten it up. I don't want to be doing like 16 lives, to give y'all like a little bit of information. No, let's pack it all into this live. Let's give you everything in this live, and let's make these lives jam-packed with quality. The call-in link is in the description, so if you want to talk about this game, we can definitely talk about this game. But first, we got to do a film session at the 16-minute mark. Okay, hang on one second. I'm in a good mood. Can you tell? I'm in a good mood. I'm rarely in a good mood, man. So this is good. I'm in a good mood partially because this helps the Raptors tank odds, and also I'm just like really relieved about that. Guess who is in practice doing his little warm-up? You can just tell sometimes how seriously a guy is taking it. Just look at his, I mean, okay, he's dribbling a basketball, okay? And this is low-hanging fruit in terms of like, look at how hard he works, but it's nice to see, man. It's just nice to see. He's moving fine. So there's a little bit of Brandon Ingram. Now, to the game. Great screen by Jonathan Mobo playing that center role. Now, obviously, Immanual Quickley has had very, very good synergy with one player on the Raptors, and that is Jakob Poeltl. They love that two-man action. They worked at it all summer. And so here he's going to try to replicate a little bit of that with Jonathan Mobo. Sets a great screen. Step back, three-pointer. As you can see, if you want to just take a look at Immanual Quickley's form, I'm going to slow this down because I mentioned it earlier that he has like a slow release. Take a look at the form. So there's this load, right? The ball dips. This was a problem that Roko Leniukic had as well. But the ball dips. It comes up, and you can see it's very flat. So imagine a defender in his face. He's not going to be able to get this off. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Give me a W if you understand what I'm saying. So this is the limitation. This is why right now, as it projects, Immanual Quickley is going to have a really, really rough path towards becoming like a lead shot creator. But you can hopefully do other things. Here we go. Scottie Barnes, get the ball in the middle of the court, draw the double, choosing between Jamal Shead and Jonathan Mobo. I'm sorry. I didn't mean any disrespect by that. But if y'all don't understand like what this dude is having to deal with, you really, really, really don't understand basketball. But here he makes the right choice. Here's Jamal Shead. Boom. Nice to beat the buzzer. Good little clock work there and good clock management. This was a very scary play. You can see in the corner of your screen there that Scottie Barnes is gassed. He made it his mission that Amen Thompson was not going to beat them tonight, that he wasn't going to let him go. And all that exertion, and this is a 5-minute mark, so this is 7 straight minutes of basketball. And this was a pretty tough game, physically demanding. He didn't make it up the court. So here, Grady's going to go and miss. And the next play down, we're going to see Scottie, who still just hadn't made it up the court. And we're going to see him give this effort, shuts down a 3-on-1 fast break. Thankfully, Ochai Agbaji and Jamal Shead get back in the play. And here you can see it. Like, he's just so gassed. He's so gassed. He's like huffing for breath here. And here, he's still going to try to get this rebound. But you can just tell he's done. Like, he gets the rebound. So he skies up for this rebound. But after that, he just like, he throws it and he's like, I literally can't get up the court. And the very next play, they show him just going to the bench. And this is the sight. Like, this is like that Chris Boucher, like, I mean, y'all just have to go to one of these games at some point to understand how fast the NBA game is, just how exhausting it is to play the type of defense. Now, what kind of defense? Now, I want to highlight this. I want to highlight this for the casuals in the back row. I want to highlight this because I want you to understand this is not normal. What this guy's doing is 6'9", 245, is just not normal in terms of exertion and effort. Look at why he's so tired. Look at this. Okay. This is Scottie Barnes on Amen Thompson. Deny, deny, deny. Okay. Look at this. Ime Udoka, like, damn, what is this dude doing? Now, you see Scottie at the corner of your screen? Stop that. Paul Blunt. He and Grady hung over. Come on, man. Get real. Hung over. Okay. Look at this. Yeah, he looks real hungover to me. Slim Creeper. Rob, you so delusional about Scottie. LMAO. I'm deciding. Are you a normal? Like, are you here a lot? Are you like a regular casual? Are you like, I don't know if you're let me know. Or are you someone who's here a lot? Let me know. Allow it. Okay. Cool. All right. Anyways, this shit is hard. You know what's even harder? Making this pass. This is crazy. This is nuts. Like, how do you even make this pass? Like, nobody knew this pass was even thrown other than Chris Boucher. Like nuts. That was a crazy pass. You know what? They tell you that you can ban certain words from your chat. I'm like low key this close to banning the word Cade. Y'all gonna have to call him Cad. Damn. Okay. Here we go. Defense, bro. Shit is hard. Deny. You know why? Because if you deny Amen Thompson, the basketball, Jock Landale has to make a move. This is like Scottie had a game plan coming into this game. The Raptors had a game plan that they were not going to let Amen Thompson beat them, and they didn't. I think he was very good defensively. Offensively, he struggled. He struggled to just get the ball. I think, you know, and I've never really seen someone do that to Amen Thompson because he is a crazy athlete. He might be pound for pound the best athlete in the NBA. Like, it's not easy to stop him on a drive. He has a quick first step. He's powerful. He's super strong. He's just a really freak athlete. Like, I've compared him to Michael Jordan as an athlete. Like, I'm not sure if he's the vertical fluid athlete that Michael Jordan is, but just in terms of like an athletic specimen, like I really find myself impressed with Amen Thompson at all times. Now, fluidity, rookie on rookie matchup. Now, narratives change everything. Reed Sheppard was the 3rd overall pick. I remain fairly high on Reed Sheppard, although he is struggling massively. I am, however, extremely high on the Raptors' 19th overall pick. That's Jacoby Walter. And here, Jacoby's going to be like, I should have gone top 3, bro. I could have stayed home. I could have stayed home in Texas. I could have been a top 3 pick. And here, Jacoby is going to do something very underrated where he is going to trip over Jock Landale's foot and force the refs to actually call a foul here. And so this is just really great. That is just really great. And now this might have been one of my favorite plays of the night because it involved 3 of the youngsters, 3 of the afterthoughts. If I told you coming into this season in the middle of the second quarter with the Raptors up by 8 against the second round in the second quarter against a really good team in the Houston Rockets, granted, that's missing a lot of players. Disregard that at some point, Jonathan Mobo was going to drive against Dylan Brooks, make a pass to Ochai Agbaji, and Ochai Agbaji, upon gathering the basketball, was going to make a behind-the-back pass to Jamal Shead, and Shead was going to finish a layup over. You'd think I would be describing fantasy fiction, like some sort of fan fiction. That's crazy. That was great. Now, this was a really weird play. Now, Scottie missed the free throw on this. I'll mention that. But here, Scottie finds Immanual Quickley for the above the break 3. As you can see, Quickley takes the shot. It's out of his hand. Amen Thompson shoves Scottie Barnes in the back. They called a foul. They initially waved the basket off, which was a little bit nuts. Thankfully, they went back and corrected it, gave Scottie the extra free throw. Again, how many wings, guards, whatever, do you know that can recover like this? This is crazy. This is some Giannis Antetokounmpo shit that Scottie just did here. This is awesome. Boom. Or Draymond Green shit. If you want to call it Draymond Green shit, fine. Cool. Draymond, one of the greatest defenders of all time. Call it Draymond Green shit if it makes you feel better. Here, I mean, shoot. If I told you that Grady Dick was going to be one-on-one against Dillon Brooks in the backcourt, pressuring him, think about what I'm saying. Just close your eyes and imagine you didn't see this game. Dillon Brooks is bringing the ball up the court. Grady Dick is pressuring him 94 feet and strips him off a live dribble. And then, oh, by the way, passes to Scottie Barnes, who easily could have taken this dunk. So to everyone clowning this 15 points, there's your 17 points right there if he wants it. But he decides, nah, I'm going to get my guy an easier shot. Pass the good shot up for a great shot. Love it. And he shields Dillon Brooks from making the contest and gets Ochai a super easy shot. Okay, this play is straight up disrespectful and kind of dangerous. No intent. I'm sure there's absolutely zero intent here, but unfortunately, Grady on this drive, he's going to get an elbow to the head, apparently out with a neck contusion for the rest of the game from this quarter. But scary, just seeing Grady holding his head there, especially after what happened with RJ Barrett. And Amen Thompson, really classy move here, is just going to step over Grady like it's Ty Lue and Allen Iverson from the 2001 playoffs. My God. Okay. Now, second half. I say Scottie Barnes is doing everything because I feel like this is the type of stuff that they don't talk about on the air very often. They'll every 3-4 plays, they'll be like, good defense by Scottie, good defense by Jakobi. But I don't feel like they're really breaking down the complexity of just how difficult some of this shit is. So watch this. Here, Scottie contains the dribble, right? Live dribble, quicker player, contains it. Now here, Jonathan Mobo is a little bit out of position, and Jock Landale is about to get a wide open punch at the basket. He's already dunked on you once. Here, Scottie is going to get up and say, get that shit out of here. Again, this stuff is hard. Okay? It's hard. Cad Cunningham doesn't do this shit. Paolo doesn't do this shit. Anthony Edwards rarely does this shit. So I'll miss me with all this, oh my God. I mean, you go check Paolo's shooting percentages over the last few games if you want to feel better about this. This is a work in progress, man. When this guy puts it together, call me delusional, call me stupid, call me a visionary. Shit. Been right about Scottie most of the way through. Okay. Again, double team. Here he backs down Jalen Green, which forces Jock Landale to double team. This is a terrible double team. This is a terrible double team. This is not uncomfortable. Scottie is just seeing everything. He is just waiting for the defense to make a mistake. Now here, they make one because Dillon Brooks is going to have to abandon his guy here. Amen Thompson and Dillon Brooks are the help. So this is a tough play, right? But you got two shooters, right? You got two shooters, Abaji and Walter here. And Walter's been hitting his threes. So you could whip this across, right? You could whip this across to Jakobi. You could throw this up to Ochai. Instead, you're going to throw this to Jonathan Mobo as the connective pass and allow him to make the right move. And I believe what he's going to do, or at least what I think he should do in this case, given how the defense is reacting, is I think that he should try to fake a shot over Amen Thompson, and then pass it off to Jakobi Walter. I don't remember what happens on this play, but let's see what happens. Or that. Boom. Great. Pass to the pass. The hockey assist, as they call it. Okay. Ochai Agbaji with a one-man fast break. Amen Thompson's a great athlete. Ochai Agbaji might be the closest thing to him that the Raptors have. Like, he is a very impressive athlete. For a 6'4" guy, how he's able to protect the rim is just, it's awesome. And speaking of the rim, here's Jamal Shead going right to the rim, stopping here. And this is all about pace. Jamal Shead is starting to play with pace. Previously he was rushing. He was rushing a lot of his releases. Everything felt too sped up for him. Now he's very comfortable. And I resent anyone trying to compare him to Fred VanVleet. please stop comparing this dude to Fred VanVleet. I am going to have an aneurysm. This is 100% Lowry play. Stop comparing it to Fred VanVleet. The comparison is right in front of you. He is a pure point guard. Fred VanVleet was basically an undersized shooting guard. Can we please stop? Like, competent floor general, yes, but combo guard. Fred looked for his first, okay? Jamal is not that. And Jamal is just so much burstier than Fred. He's so much quicker than Fred that it just makes me irritated that that comparison just keeps happening. But nevertheless, comparing him to one All-Star, comparing him to another All-Star, I personally would rather compare him to the 6-time All-Star as opposed to the 1-time All-Star. I don't know. Okay, crazy play by Chris Boucher, man. You cannot allow a 38-year-old to just get this basketball and then insult to injury, just pushing him to give the and one is such a bad play. Really mixed game from Chris Boucher, man. Again, no burst. I said no burst. There's no burst here. Here, kind of gets into that little boom. Okay, now, this is the game right here. When you teach a basketball player how to drive, right? This is what Scottie doesn't do enough, okay? He doesn't get below his defender. I don't think I've ever talked about this on the on this show, so let me talk about it for a bit. When you see great drivers, when you watch Brandon Ingram, who's a very good driver, when you watch Michael Jordan, even Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, whatever, what do? They get their body low and then they explode up to the rim. What Scottie does is he plays very vertical. This is partially due to a lot of things. I mean, I'm here to speculate, okay? But it has a lot to do with flexibility. It has a lot to do with handle. It has a lot to do with comfort, refinement. This is something that you learn over time. Most kids, when they pick up basketball, play very vertical. It's over years and years of repetition and gym, skills work, skills trainers, etc., that you learn how to play a lot lower. I used to play very vertical. I mean, I think most weak ball handlers play very vertical, and they rarely get this low. Scottie rarely gets this low, but here you can see that getting a little bit lower can make you a little bit more explosive, can give you that first step. It can also make you a little bit less predictable. So here, boom, and now you get up and you make the shot. Not a great shot, makes the shot anyway. Tough defense, decent defense by Jay Sean Tate here, but you can see there's just no burst. There's no burst at all. He just kind of just throws this up at the rim and, prays for the best. It goes in, so everyone celebrates it. But here, this vertical, still vertical, right? It's all vertical with him. He tries to shoulder bump. It's that Kawhi thing, right? He wants to bump. But if you're going to do that, if you're going to play vertical like this, you really do have to be like an immovable object. Like you got to be Paolo, Shaq, Giannis strong. Like you got to be moving dudes out of the way. You can't be shying away from contact and playing vertical. You can't be finesse and rigid. Like it can't work both ways. So from a skills perspective here, he just needs to get a little bit lower. You are attacking a 38-year-old off the dribble, and he has no chance to stop you laterally. But because you are on a bit of a bum ankle, you don't have that explosion. You don't have that burst right now. You're also exhausted from exerting yourself on the other end. So I understand that maybe this isn't going to be as smooth, but that's an unstoppable shot. If he figures this out, I think Brandon Ingram's watching this. Like, I can help him. I can help him refine that a little bit, and this can be perfect, right? Now this, hey, yo, what the hell? Is this a flagrant? Y'all let me know. Is this a flagrant? Just spam F in the chat if this is flagrant. Jeez. Come on, man. I don't know about flagrant, man. You call a foul. That's not a flagrant. Okay. Here. Quickly. Retreat dribble. And then, one-on-one against Reed Shepherd. Again, reputationally, good defender. Still a rookie. Still trying to figure out how to, get his timing about him. Still trying to figure out the athleticism of the league. Still a little bit too weak. So here, he just takes one step and boom. If you want to see a player who gets low, check out Jalen Green. He gets low. He gets low on the drives. But even a little bit here. I mean, look at this defense. Look at that defense. That's insane. Forces the miss. Okay. I don't want to play the whole clip lest I get, a strike or something. Gets the rebound. Dribble. 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 Boucher gets the ball. And here, Boucher is going to make a great pass. Show that pass. Boom. To Jonathan Mobo, who gets an and one, which is perfect. But it starts with two things. It starts with the pressure that forces the miss, then the rebound by Scottie, and then it starts with the push to the advantage. Again, you're struggling to score. The Raptors went 4 minutes at a time in this game without scoring a single basket. So those droughts are ended when you can get early transition advantages. The Rockets did a decent job in transition today. I don't think they did a great job, but, again, slow this down. I don't even think the broadcasters brought this up. Is this not great defense? First of all, good job, Ochai. Force baseline, into the help. And here, Scottie Barnes. Dun dun. Was that Jonathan Mobo from the back? I apologize. That was Jonathan Mobo blocking. Scottie's there. Jonathan Mobo's there. Nice block. I say, and one. Now, this is not a question of whether he can do this. I don't think there's a doubt in hell that he can do this. As you can see, though, the drive is still very vertical. Takes one step. He gets that one step. Now he can extend because now he's got that inside and he can just brush off with his shoulder. Landale is not going to stop him, or Lawndale, sorry. And he can just make this, right? Nice. His touch has been awful around the basket the last 4 or 5 games. So it's nice to see that one drop. Hopefully he's turning a corner, starting to feel a little bit healthier. I say this defense will eventually be special. Eventually. Look at how they communicate this. Look at the activity level. Look at the, and by the way, all 5 of these guys on the court right now, Walter, Abaji, Shead, Mobo, Barnes, they're going to be on his team next year. These are valuable reps, right? Look at Jakob just walling off on Dillon Brooks. And then here, Jonathan Mobo with the help. It's great, man. It's just good defense. Good defense. We say paint to great. Paint to great, right? Here, Ochai Abaji. 1 foot in the paint, and what? Kick out. Jakob Walter. Boom. Get off the line. Little full floater. Perfect. He's had that for a while. He can make that. He can make that at a high clip. Okay? And here, Scottie Barnes, just gets a little bit low, gets into Jalen Green, and then extends up. Now you get. Sometimes his technique on drives is just wrong. It's not just the handle. It's just the technique. He doesn't get low enough. He's not getting enough into its stance. So, overall, that's the game. I hope this film breakdown was reasonably, beneficial for y'all. 297 of y'all in here. 297 likes would be a great accomplishment. Can you make sure to like this video if you appreciated the film session? I got to show you something. And I'm really hoping I don't get copyright flagged for this because I promise you I wanted to talk about something a little bit deeper than basketball. And this is something I want to talk about. And this is the allegation and the somewhat misrepresentative thought process that Brandon Ingram is maybe not who I don't want to say not who you think he is, but that Brandon Ingram is a different type of dude. Now I want to tell you a little bit about Brandon Ingram. And this is going to be a nice little intro to Brandon. For those of you who haven't really followed his career since Kinston, and those of you who didn't really follow him at Duke, I understand there's even some people who pretty much started watching, the Raptors in 2019. I don't expect you to know anything about Brandon Ingram in AAU. So I want to tell you some stuff about Brandon Ingram that's going to really show you how long a road he took to get here to the Toronto Raptors. Then I want to tell you a little bit about some media members, not just in Toronto, but in the United States, that have been saying some stuff about Brandon that I don't think is entirely true or entirely fair. And I think that that all of this is going to paint a nice little story for you in terms of how Brandon Ingram got to Toronto, why he's a great fit. And then we're going to devote a little bit more time after get through this, because a little bit of boilerplate, a little bit of reading, but I want to get, I promise you it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. Even if you follow us on X, maybe just hearing it one more time is going to be helpful. And then I want to talk about how Brandon fits with Scottie as a basketball fit. I want to talk about how that works with Immanual Quickley, how that works with RJ, how that works with potentially a stretch big, or who the Raptors could draft, what this could project to look like next year, and just how high I am on BI's fit with the Raptors if he buys in, which I have almost no doubt that he's gonna. Okay, let's start. Rob, please do a collab with the School of Scent. Huh? What? Who's School of Scent? Okay, hang on one second. I gotta. Where the hell is a picture of Brandon Ingram that I can flash onto the screen while I talk about Brandon Ingram? Don't tell me you got to put up a picture of Scottie Barnes while I talk about Brandon Ingram. That doesn't make any sense. Hang on one second. Damn it. Hang on one sec, guys. Sorry, I should have prepared better for this. My bad. Okay. Let me put it up here. What? Give me one sec. Sorry, guys. I don't know where this is. Oh, because it's a web app. Okay. Hang on one sec. Give me one sec. Sorry. I got you now. Okay. I promise it's worth it. Okay. Oh, you're going to learn a lot about Brandon Ingram today. Okay. Okay. There's a video component to this too. Bear with me. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about this kid, Brandon Ingram. Okay. Brandon Ingram is proudly from Kinston, North Carolina, a place locals call basketball heaven. Okay. Located about 50 minutes north of Jacksonville and 4 hours east of Charlotte, Kinston has seen its fair share of hardships: floods, poverty, gang violence. In fact, in 2016, a study ranked Kinston 1 out of 100 in terms of crime index. 1, by the way, for those of you who don't know, means the most dangerous. Though Brandon was fortunate to be shielded from these dangers, he was not blind to them. He has lost friends and teammates to gun violence, watched gangs take control of his neighborhoods, and seen friends make poor choices that derailed their futures. As Brandon recalled, "It's a good town, but as I grew older, it got kind of violent. Most of those guys knew that's the direction I was headed. They would try to protect me if I was in the wrong place. They'd let me know." For Brandon, basketball was more than just a game. It was his ticket to a better life, and he knew he could do it. After all, he was born in basketball heaven. On average, only 3 out of 10,000 registered high school basketball players make it to the NBA from the United States. However, between 1972 and 2020, 1 out of every 52 players on Kinston High's varsity team have made it to the NBA. That is 62 times greater than the national average. The town has produced several NBA players, including Reggie Bullock, Jerry Stackhouse, Cedric Maxwell, Charles Shackelford, Tony Dawson, and Herbert Hill, and of course, Brandon Ingram. Despite Kinston's challenges, the town has nurtured talent that's gone on to achieve greatness on the biggest stage. And Brandon was their brightest hope ever. Though Brandon hails from a town rife with temptations, those who've taught, coached, or played with him describe him in almost identical terms: quiet, humble, polite, and caring. One of those college teammates even referred to him as a gym rat, recalling how Brandon's daily routine revolved around the gym and his room: training, resting, training, resting, training, resting, and repeating. This is carried on in the pros as well. His Lakers and Pelicans teammates have and coaches would describe him in the exact same way. Michael Beasley once said, "Bro, you're basically Kobe." In addition to his dedication on the court, Ingram is known for his strong character and community outreach. He has always tried to uplift his teammates after a tough loss or cheer them up when they're having a bad day. His demeanor is a direct reflection of his upbringing, shaped by two incredible parents, two half siblings, and a supportive extended family, a great aunt and an uncle. Brandon grew up in a stable and loving home, a two-income home. His brother, Donovan, also known as Bo, often played basketball with him, even though the two lived 10 minutes apart. In fact, Brandon credits playing alongside Donovan's older friends and basketball teammates as one of the greatest blessings of his youth. Brandon's father, Donald, played a pivotal role in shaping his life. A former police officer who later ran a local recreation center, Donald was no stranger to basketball. Having played semi-professionally throughout the world, he was absolutely no stranger to the hardwood or the asphalt. When he returned to Kinston, Donald actually befriended a local basketball legend named Jerry Stackhouse. Stackhouse was actively recruiting local players for off-season training to sharpen his own game. Took a real liking to Donald, and the two became really good friends. So much so that in 8th grade, Stackhouse became Ingram's AAU coach, mentoring the young player and taking his game to the next level. Ingram would later say, "He made me a tougher player." That time under Stackhouse's tutelage helped shape and propel Brandon's growth and developed him both as a player and as a person. Connections are everything, and there's no coincidences in basketball. In 2011, Jerry Stackhouse was coaching Brandon Ingram in AAU. In 2015, he took a job with the Toronto Raptors as an assistant. Now, the Raptors had 2 picks in the 2016 draft, picks they used on Jakob Poeltl at 9 and Pascal Siakam at 27. You think the Raptors might have tried to trade up for Brandon Ingram because there was a coach who knew him really well, who couldn't stop speaking well about him? I wonder if Jerry Stackhouse talked to Masai Ujiri back then about this gangly, talented 18-year-old phenom named Brandon Ingram from Duke. I wonder if that planted a seed in Masai's mind. From basketball heaven to the north, Brandon's next chapter will be his best yet. Now, I say all of this to set up the next part of this because, okay, I want to read the chat a little bit. I want to see if y'all vibing with this, if you're not vibing with this, whatever. No, I know it's Kinston. Did I say Kingston? I'm saying Kinston. I'm aware. I wrote the article. Oh, okay. You're not correcting me. Rob, you think Doug Smith wins National Sports Writer of the Year award? No. Donovan Mitchell is 6'2". No, he's not. Hallie is a fraud. Yes, he is. Okay. I guess we're having a different conversation. Cool. Thank you. Okay. Now I want to set up the next part of this because this is the important part too. So I wanted to read y'all that because I wanted you to know a little bit about who Brandon Ingram, the person, is. And you're going to see a little bit of that. You're going to see, a little bit of the people who kind of came up with him and stuff. But I want to set this up because there's something really that's pissed me off for a long time about Brandon Ingram. Now, I don't really expect any less from Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith has been pretty much tearing down black athletes for, I don't know, as long as he's been walking in Philadelphia. But I expect better from the Toronto media. So I'm going to make sure that y'all really hear me when I say this. Okay. 200 likes and 16,000 views on this post is just not enough. I want y'all to hear just how people talk about Brandon Ingram. Okay.
He consistently looks a bit detached, dare I say. Just doesn't seem to be all there. And I'm going to leave it at that.
We're going to hold you accountable. We are going to be in your demanding max effort from you at all times.
First of all, who the hell are you to demand max effort from anybody? Now, he was talking in context of why Brandon Ingram needs to go to Miami Heat. And he was talking to Udonis Haslem. So that's like tampering-ish, but Stephen A. Smith doesn't really work for a team. But he was saying how Brandon Ingram needs guidance. This young man is lost. He doesn't do this and he doesn't do that. But let's let Stephen A. Smith speak for himself.
And off the court, I don't see that from Brandon Ingram. I'm not questioning his game. I'm saying his game is gifted enough where we should see far more of an impact from him than we have seen.
Brandon.
Kind of reminds me of Kwame Brown. Kwame Brown. Remember that? Kwame Brown, man, like ridiculed and roasted a guy for going first overall to the Washington Wizards for his entire career because he was a quiet country kid. You know, it's funny. I don't think Stephen A. Smith likes people from the Carolinas. I don't think Stephen A. Smith really understands basketball very well. And it's pretty amazing because he's been paid millions and millions of dollars every single year to cover basketball. And I don't really like how the national media talks about athletes sometimes. You know, I'll tell you personally, I've watched several of my favorite athletes be torn to shreds by these vultures. People like Rasheed Wallace, who really, you know, was a really good dude who had nothing but positive reviews from his teammates. People go to battle for that guy, but somehow the national media just saw a big, angry guy and a troublemaker. And it's just weird. It's weird. But this is the reputation. Now, I want to be careful because I'm going to read out something after this, but hear this too.
Ingram, nicknames Slim Reefer. Another nomination.
Hey, yo, that's crazy.
Where do you have that in the notorious BI3 ranking?
This is definitely better than the notorious BI3 right now, man. The issue is we can't get Matt Devlin to say this on air.
That's not the issue. The issue is so multi-layered and so multifaceted that I had to write an entire friggin' essay about it. And I'm going to share that with you. But this is how people who actually grew up with Brandon, who know Brandon, describe him. And I think you're going to really, really love this player. I think you're going to love him a lot. But hear how he was described when he was 17 years old. Just hear it.
He never had to be, you know, on a Friday, Saturday night going to wherever somebody's hanging out. You know, he was happy if he was in the gym working on his game.
Didn't even go to his senior prom. That's where he was, in the gym. That's pretty remarkable right there. That speaks volumes of the man. I mean, everybody always want to talk about the prime. We all want to talk about going to the prime. And that lets you know how focused this young man was.
Didn't go to his prom because he wanted to work out, wanted to shoot hoops. That's some obsessive ass shit, man. That's crazy.
All he wanted to do was what?
Man, I knew to fulfill that dream, I had to be focused and do everything that I could to get towards that dream. My dad has a rec gym right around the corner, so I'm there a lot. And I wasn't a party guy, so I was always there.
The gym has always been a sanctuary for him.
This rec center here, I mean, it's been vital in the Kingston community.
Now, if you look up the median income household of Kinston, North Carolina, it's, I think, about $32,000 per family. It's one of the poorest. It's one of the poorest neighborhoods. It's one of the poorest, not neighborhoods, one of the poorest cities, towns. I don't know if it's a city, cities in North Carolina, which is already not a super wealthy state. I mean, you got to climb out from this. You got to grind hard. And his entire family is just hard workers, blue collar people, good people. I've done so much research on Brandon Ingram, and I've sharpened my research so much more since he's been traded to the Raptors and since he was rumored to be coming to the Raptors, and just kind of refreshed myself on why I believed in this kid so much all the way back in 2015. And it's because he's just such a genuinely nice dude. Like, I mean, you see how his teammates are talking about him leaving. You see Zion's reaction. You see Jose Alvarado's reaction. There's nobody that's ever had a bad thing to say about Brandon Ingram in the NBA. But, yo, apparently the dude's a stoner. Okay, let's talk about that for a second, because this is a fucking loaded ass thing that y'all trying to open a can of worms here. I said, welcome to the Toronto Raptors, Brandon Ingram. It's funny how a man having heavy eyelids can lead some people to widely speculate that he's a stoner, but that's the world we live in. Brandon has looked the same way since he was a kid. Heck, his dad, Donald, has the same eyes. Is he high too? If you don't believe me, I want you to actually Google Donald Ingram, North Carolina. I want you to look at Brandon Ingram's dad, look at his eyelids, look at Brandon's eyelids, go Google a picture of Brandon Ingram in grade 7 and tell me, you think the whole family's stoned? You think everyone's baked? Or is it possible that certain people just have a different look about them, that certain people just have a different mannerism about them? Not every single person who talks slow is stupid, and not every single person with droopy eyelids is high, you dumbass. Anyways, so let me issue a warning, and trust me when I say I mean it. To the Toronto media who want to make wild assumptions about an athlete's drug use, here's my offer to you. The next time you have a chance to speak to Brandon Ingram, I want you to ask the kid who skipped his high school prom to hit the gym, the same guy that's never had a single off-court issue in his life, the same guy his coaches rave about. I want you to ask that guy if his droopy eyelids are because of marijuana use. If he confirms that he's a heavy marijuana user to you, I will personally apologize. No questions asked. I'm out of pocket. I'm wrong. Y'all were right. He's a stoner. That's why he looks baked. Cool. I will apologize. But until that day, shut the fuck up. Don't call him reefer, stoner, slim reefer, and don't you dare make that assumption without a confirmation. Marijuana use is legal in Toronto, and that is what people will tell me. You know, I did a poll. I ran a poll on IG. I asked, is this nothing, something, or everything? Should I be upset about this? Most of the people, I think it was over 70%, were either between, yes, this is very serious, or B, it's problematic. You, bro, I don't fucking care if you think it's just a joke. Jokes have context. And let me explain why. Now, you can either open your mind to what I'm about to say, or you can close your mind. Because trust me, drug use has been used to diminish people's character, make assumptions about them many times. And if you don't think that, you might be 14 or 15 years old. You might not live in the same real world that the rest of us do. Okay? Marijuana use is legal in Toronto, but there still exists a large segment of the population that have baked in expectations and stereotypes about marijuana users. Lazy, complacent, disorganized, disinterested. There are so many others. There are so many others. And believe me, I've had conversations with people who say, oh, I don't want my daughter dating someone who's smoking weed. I don't want my friends hanging around people who smoke weed. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember my mom saying that same shit to me. So yes, and there are so many people who were taught at a young age that marijuana makes you stupid, that marijuana makes you whatever. You want to make wild assumptions about someone's marijuana use. Then at what point are you going to stop short of making wild assumptions about their IQ, about how smart they are, whether they're a little bit punchy, whether they're lazy? Do you know what I mean? Like, once you plant the seed of doubt that this guy is a marijuana user, then he has okay, I'm just going to read it out because I'm a rant for like 10 hours if I don't just read this out. Given how convoluted, okay, and I just want to say lazy, complacent, disorganized, and disinterested are not 4 words that I would ever use to describe Brandon Ingram. Okay, given how convoluted this conversation is, given how layered and nuanced it is, given how many people of color are currently sitting in prison because some asshole cop looked at a black kid with droopy eyelids and assumed he was high, tread carefully, because I've read your dumbass playbook, because you're joking about nicknames right now, and 2 years from now, when he has a bad month, the same idiots who listen to you now will jump to the same conclusions. He must have been high every bad game. Oh, I guess he got baked last night. If he has, a tough quarter, it's like, oh, he should stop smoking weed. Yo, this is the hockey media, bro. I know how they run. I've been watching them do it to athletes my whole damn life. Okay? Drug use has no color, my bro. No, it doesn't. But the use of drugs certainly disproportionately affects one color. Don't you think? You don't think so? Cool. It must be nice to live in your world, man. Because throughout my life, I can definitely tell you, for the vast majority of my friends, it has impacted one of us much more than the other. I certainly was not going to jail because I got caught with a spliff. I'll tell you that. Absolutely. Yeah, the drugs don't discriminate. Whether we're talking about fentanyl, I mean, you got a lunatic in the White House who's currently talking about fentanyl and drugs and stuff. Like, drugs are a very loaded conversation, whether you're talking about the innocent drugs or whether you're talking about the super illegal narcotic drugs. Legalizing weed does not completely change the conversation around marijuana. All it does is change whether you can go to prison for possession or not. You know what I mean? So I gotta say, I had to say this because I feel like I've just watched too many athletes get dragged like this way too many times. And whether, they meant it that way, I'm sure they didn't. They're just immature, stupid people. But Stephen A. Smith did mean it that way. And I want to be clear, that first clip, the first clip I showed you where he was saying he's a little bit, what did he say? Hold on, let me just hear that again.
It's a bit. He consistently looks a bit detached.
Detached? Okay, you coded motherfucker. Okay, detached. So he's obviously implying that he is high, that he's stoned. And he used this in a segment in which he said, this is why I would not sign him to a max contract. Reputations are important, really important. People draw connections. We are meaning-making machines. Why do you think I pushed so hard when the same William Liu had David Thorpe on his podcast in year 2, and they were talking about Scottie's work ethic issues? Because the problem is when people stagnate, when people become complacent, we want to know why. It's our first instinct is to know why, right? If I told you Scottie Barnes is not playing for the rest of the year, you would want to know why. If I told you Grady Dick is away for personal reasons, your first thought would be why. And if you see next year that Grady Dick came back 15 to 25 pounds overweight, I think your first question is going to be why. Why is everything. Why is why we do this. Okay. So what I'm trying to say here is that when you already put in this poison into the soup, if you will, people don't ask why anymore. They just jump to the conclusion. The order in which we receive information about a person changes based on the order we receive it. So the information we receive changes based on the order and how our minds sequence it. I'll give you a really good example of this. Hold on. I got to read this example so I don't mess it up. Hang on. I wrote it down just so I could share it with y'all. Give me one sec here. As you can tell, I was a little bit upset about this. Okay. So I said, as someone who has seen the character assassinations of some of my favorite all-time athletes like Vince Carter, Rasheed Wallace, Allen Iverson, a large part of the ethos around Pensare Basketball is providing a counterbalance to these narratives. From work ethic allegations to, quote, love of the game narratives, far too many athletes lose dollars, opportunities, and their careers due to how they're covered. We, as in we, this community, exists to push back. This man, this dude right here, has successfully torn to shreds the reputation of so many athletes, and almost always athletes of color, by the way. Allegations of soft, dumb, stoned, and angry, all with the stamp of approval from ESPN and Fox, and a $10 million check to boot. But when you actually talk to the people around the people he covers so negatively, you get a very different picture of who they are. Rasheed Wallace was an incredible teammate. Vince Carter actually loved basketball, and Brandon Ingram clearly doesn't have issues with accountability and motivation. Raptors fans witnessed a small preview of this in 2022 when a random interview with William Liu and David Thorpe, as well as JD Bunkus and David Thorpe, put the spotlight on Scottie Barnes' offseason work ethic issue. They put it down, millions picked it up, and boom. That's why he's shooting badly. Reputations are fickle. They have to be guarded. The seeds of doubt are planted innocuously, but they hurt just the same. Rasheed was never covered like a superstar, and he was never paid like one either. Vince was never seen the same after the Toronto media smear campaign against him. Dave Chappelle had a really beautiful point in one of his specials that I always remember, and he said that somewhere someone had written an article about him years ago in which he was painted as deeply transphobic, and that people he meets today still echo the points from that article years ago. It's called an anchoring bias. Things we hear first tether first. Things we hear second always clash with the thing we heard before. So it's called information sequencing, really. So the example is Jeff gives millions of dollars to the poor. Jeff was a great man according to those who knew him. Jeff is now in jail for a crime he did not commit. Based on the information that I got, I actually have a plausible, doubt that Jeff actually committed this crime. How could such a great person that everybody loves commit the crime? Versus if you hadn't heard that story, but you heard this story, Jeff is in jail for a crime. He gave millions to the poor and according to his friends was a great man. Because the jail thing and the crime thing came first, I maybe have a little bit of a different understanding of Jeff. So overall, I wanted to get that off my chest. And let's talk about how Brandon Ingram fits into the Toronto Raptors. So Brandon Ingram is a very talented basketball player. Not news to you, not news to me. And certainly Zal saying, if we want to have a moral conversation, then weed has to be proven to cause schizophrenia in children. So there's nothing wrong with being against weed. Okay, I don't even know where you're sitting at, bro. Okay. Rob always got excuses lined up for Scottie. Bye, Tenson. So overall, I think Brandon's a fantastic player. Does he drive a playoff offense by himself as a number one? I don't think so. But I think what he is can be perfected. Now, per synergy, he doesn't cut very often away from the basketball. He's very stationary, if not stagnant without the basketball. He doesn't do a lot when he's not creating. The closest thing that the Raptors have had to Brandon Ingram in the past is something between Gary Trent Jr. and DeMar DeRozan, players like that, Rudy Gay, right? It's a really imperfect equation because, again, you know, just like with Rudy Gay, and I'm not comparing Brandon Ingram to Rudy Gay necessarily, but there are similarities. There are similarities in the shot profile. There's similarities in the defensive, effort at times, defensive efficacy, the size, the wingspan, all of it. And I don't think this is Rudy Gay all over again at all. And a large part of that is the context of the team that he's stepping onto. I certainly would not feel this optimistic about Brandon Ingram going to Charlotte. I certainly wouldn't feel this way about Brandon Ingram going to Atlanta. But Brandon Ingram coming to Toronto, it's like the perfect fit between player and system. Not because the player already fits the system, but because the player needs the system as much as the system needs the player. Now, the Raptors, as you have seen, often struggle tremendously to generate shots in the half court. Brandon Ingram does not struggle to generate shots in the half court. But the Toronto Raptors have one of the best shot quality index ratings across the league. They create the best shots. Like, their offense is awesome. I know that sounds crazy because their offense often can't score for like 6-7 minutes. And you're like, how is this an awesome offense? Well, again, the base is there for an awesome offense. The pieces are not yet there, either because they have yet to develop or they have yet to be traded for, drafted, or, yeah. But the offense itself clicks. The offense works. It generates good looks. And it may be generating looks for less efficient players, maybe players who are gassed from playing super hard defensively. But you will often see that players are getting right to the front of the rim and dropping the pass or dropping a layup or getting a wide open corner three, but they're missing it or above the break. The system and the function of their offense is actually designed for more talented players. Unfortunately for this team, they're sort of having to scale up to it, right? So Resident One saying, can we get rid of the trolls out there? They derail the chat every time, every live. Well, trolls are deeply unhappy people. And we can talk about trolls after we're done talking about Brandon Ingram, because we certainly don't want to give the trolls that much attention. But we can talk a little bit about trolls right towards the end and how they get off and, the little caves that they live in and the sad lives that they live. But yes. Okay. So overall, right now, what you need is Brandon Ingram to adjust. You need him to do 3 very important things that, granted, he has not necessarily done at any other point in his career, But Brandon Ingram has studied the Raptors deeply. He did not end up here by accident. I told y'all in the live the night he was traded that he wanted to be here, that he pushed his way here. Now it is a widely accepted fact because, more people said it, but this has been out there for a couple of weeks that Brandon wants out, that Brandon does not want to be in New Orleans because for a plethora of reasons, partially because he's not being paid by New Orleans, but also because he thought that this was a good time to change, good time to get out of his comfort zone. And I think that the culture around him is strong enough to at least enforce a change. Now, obviously, we saw Scottie Barnes talk about Brandon Ingram to Doug Smith, and it was predictably awful. But something good came of it where he said, he's got a lot. I think I'm going to get a lot of love out of him. And I think what Scottie was saying, if I can sort of translate or infer what he meant by that, was just that Brandon is a very, very sincere person, that he immediately felt that there was nothing energetically off. And Scottie's at least from what I've heard about Scottie, is that he's a very, very fierce, he has a very, very fierce sixth sense for bullshit, that he can sort of tell when someone's energy is off or that they're not a very good person or whatever. And he tends to be a little bit cagey and guarded around those people. But if you have clean energy and, you seem honest and, not anxious and weird, he's generally really, really cool with you. And so it has been very important to put people like that with clean energy and good intentions around him because it is allowing the team to actually function. And so I am betting on this duo to really amplify each other. Things that Brandon needs to do. Number one, he's a good shooter. At 6'9", there's hardly a player in the league that can really contest his release. It's a lot of the same theoretical stuff with Scottie, right? 6'9", 7'3" wingspan. Just aren't a lot of shots that can bother your release point. And so Brandon's just a really big player. I feel like some people maybe haven't watched him play in a while or maybe don't remember him playing, or maybe have just seen him in highlights. But I think when you start to see him around Raptorland, you'll notice how much he towers over the other wings on this team, like Jakobi and Ochai and Immanual Quickley and RJ Barrett. Like, he's a really genuinely huge human being. He's closer to Jakob Poeltl's height than he is to RJ Barrett's height. So he's a big wing. And now you have two of these guys. And I think that in order for this pairing to work, I think they need to be very much connected off the court. I think they need to have a lot of reps. I think they need to get to know each other a little bit. I think they need to work out together. I think they need to have that summer, this summer, where he and Brandon and Immanual Quickley, perhaps, Jacoby Walter, these guys, they really redo what they did last summer, except this time with Brandon in tow. Now, there is probably a natural expectation that Brandon Ingram is going to come in and take over the offense and that Scottie Barnes is just going to shuttle off into third option territory. That's not what's going to happen. I don't think that's what's going to happen at all. And I don't think that's what they want to happen. I would actually see this pairing more like Jokic and Murray, where one player is just a little bit shiftier off the perimeter and one player can create more from the post. And so what they're going to do is they're going to try to convince Brandon Ingram to do what Pascal Siakam didn't do. And they're going to try to convince Immanual Quickley to do what Fred VanVleet didn't do. And they're going to just try to see if with younger, more adaptable pieces, they can recreate the vision for what they initially wanted to do in the first place, which was build an offense around a great passer like Scottie and have everybody else eat. Now, if you told me next year that Scottie averaged 19 points per game and Brandon averaged 23 and IQ averaged 22 and RJ averaged 20, I wouldn't be at all shocked. I mean, I would be a little bit shocked, but I wouldn't be at all shocked. No, I'd be crazy shocked. No, what am I talking about? If you told me Scottie was the third leading scorer on this team next year because Brandon Ingram and RJ Barrett jumped him, I wouldn't be shocked at all. That's not surprising to me. What needs to happen right now for Scottie is efficiency. What needs to happen is efficacy and impact. What needs to happen is defense. What needs to happen really is that he has cleaner looks and that he's more effective in the zones that he's operating in. What does not need to happen is Scottie does not need to turn into Draymond Green taking 6 shots a game. This will never work this way because Brandon Ingram is not a superstar. Scottie Barnes is, at least in theory, on track to being one. So what Brandon is really your Jamal Murray. Like, this is your guy who can get a bucket in tight quarters. And when Scottie is operating in the post, or, he's got the ball in the mid post, this is where Brandon needs to become more effective. Now, there's good news and bad news. Number one, he doesn't usually do well in these situations because he doesn't put himself in these situations. He's often pretty ball dominant. He's often, not really in positions. He doesn't really keep the flow going. He sort of disrupts the flow, which is, I think, why most people are a little bit sour on his game, because it's a little bit of a throwback. Ironically, he has a lot in common with Jerry Stackhouse. He does a lot of the Jerry Stackhouse stuff. And so right now, what you need to do is you need more Darko, less Jerry Stackhouse. You need him to continue to be aggressive. You would love if Brandon Ingram come out and score 25 points per game for you, but you need it to be an efficient 25. And you need to change how those 25 points are. You can't be all in the mid post. It can't all be drives that don't end at the basket. It can't all be turnarounds. It has to be some catch and shoot threes. There have to be some cuts to the rim where Scottie is able to find him, right? There have to be some above the break transition opportunities where he just runs the floor. There has to be some some pick and pop stuff where he's even playing big in a small lineup where he's able to stretch an opposing five. And then on the other end, he has to compete defensively. So some things that Brandon needs to do, specifically, number one, dial in defensively, lock in. Number two, off ball. We need an entire summer of training Brandon Ingram how to do some of the RJ Barrett, Bruce Brown stuff, the Jacoby Walter stuff, the Ochai Agbaji stuff, the Grady Dick stuff, because while those guys doing it make them effective, Brandon doing it will make him a star player. Like, honestly, he has a lot in common with Anthony Davis in terms of the physical profile and overall like size, wingspan, whatever. Could he be a mini Anthony Davis with a jumper? Like, that sounds kind of crazy, maybe offensively at least. Anthony Davis does a lot of stuff off the ball. It's a lot of efficient stuff. And when Brandon was playing more off the ball, where Lonzo was creating a lot of looks for him in New Orleans, he was super effective. Now, Brandon's a good shooter. He's a good catch and shoot shooter. His percentages have been sky high throughout the last 4 years. He's been really good. He's also a good finisher around the rim because he has good touch around there. He just doesn't get there enough. He's also a great cutter. When he decides to cut, he's fantastic. He's great in transition. So this is a player who, in my opinion, has been playing at like 45% capacity because he's been used wrong his entire career. Right? I think that if you use him correctly, you can turn this guy into a 6-time All-Star. I think if he stays healthy and this works how I think it's going to work, I think he and Scottie could be like the best duo in the NBA. Did I say too much? No, maybe not the best duo in the NBA because Shea and Chet exist, but like one of the top 5 duos in the NBA. Like, I think they could really be up there. I think they can be incredible. 2 players of this size, 4 years apart, really, like, what are we talking about here? This guy could be so good for the Raptors if he chooses to be. If he chooses to move off the ball, if he chooses to, if we can get his health right, if we can manage maybe some of the load as well. Like, I'm not saying Kawhi load manage it, but maybe cut those minutes down a little bit. The final thing, the defense. He really needs to lock in defensively, man. He has the size. He has the technique. He has the versatility to easily guard 3 positions. He is a better defender than any player you have on the wing right now, other than maybe Jonathan Mobo and Scottie Barnes. He really is. But sometimes doesn't give enough. Sometimes not tenacious enough. Sometimes a little bit, I was about to say sleepy off the ball, but then I realized what I was about to say. Sometimes he just falls asleep off the ball, right? He's not necessarily attentive or locked in. So here's what I would love to happen. I would love for Scottie to help Brandon Ingram with the stuff that Brandon Ingram doesn't do well. Because Scottie does everything that Brandon Ingram does not do well, really well. He rebounds better, although there's no reason for that. They should both be 8.5 to 9 rebound per game guys. And if they are, congratulations, because you'll be the best rebounding team in the league if they both dial in on that. Scottie boxes out better. He's a great screener. Scottie is a wonderful passer. Scottie is, tremendous at mapping the floor. Brandon is good too. Scottie is a little bit better at that. Scottie is great off the ball. Scottie's a really good screener. Maybe not the greatest screener, but a really good screener. So there's a lot of stuff that Scottie does. Now, granted, Scottie hasn't done a lot of that stuff this year because that's not his role. But off ball, he understands where to be. We saw a lot of that in the first year where he managed to basically take a fifth option role and parlay that into a rookie of the year campaign. So Scottie can do that. Scottie's been doing that his whole life. I think that's the stuff that Brandon Ingram needs to learn. On the other end, this relationship can be quite symbiotic because I think that Brandon can teach Scottie how to get low in his stance. I think Brandon can teach Scottie how to get to his spots better. I think Brandon can teach Scottie how to smoothen out his game a little bit, how to be a little bit more assertive. I think this needs to be a push on both sides. Where on defense, I want Scottie to pick Brandon up. When it's off the ball stuff, I want Scottie to pick Brandon up and challenge him, really have the confidence to really challenge him and say, I need you to do this. You're like one of our most talented players. I need you to do this. And on the other end, when Scottie goes through the predictable lull where he turns it over or falls flat on a jumper or settles for too many threes, I need Brandon Ingram to pull him aside and be like, bro, get to your spot. Get to your spot. Punish them. Get downhill. And they need to push each other. And if they can do that for each other, then this can be one of the most fruitful relationships in franchise history. It can also quickly become one of the best trades in Raptors history. And I really hope that's the way it trends. How do Immanual Quickley and RJ Barrett factor into this? Wonderfully. If they're both around, I think Immanual Quickley will feast off of this. Obviously, the Raptors are going for big wings. Immanual Quickley can play off of those big wings. Immanual Quickley's biggest, obviously, place that he needs to work right now is point of attack defense. We need Immanual Quickley to get a lot more aggressive and assertive point of attack and be a better decision maker, be a more, decisive driver, right? And frankly, just get that shot a little bit higher, maybe tweak it. I don't want anyone breaking their shot at 25, but just being able to space the court for these wider driving angles for Scottie. And then on Scottie's end, obviously, catch and shoot jumpers, man. Catch and shoot jumpers, pull up jumpers, mid post package, tightening the handle. We need a summer where all three of these players, if not all four of these players, really lock in. Forget all four. All these players need to lock in. And now you come back next season with a top 5 pick. And I really, really would anticipate like a 47 win season next year. I would love it. 47 wins. I'm going to be insufferable on the panel. If you think I'm sitting there on the panel with 16 wins for the Raptors and I'm like, oh, wow, the Raptors are awesome. These guys are awesome. Wait till you see how much shit I talk when the Raptors are like a 45 win team, man. Come on. I would love it. Okay, we got 2 super chats. KP saying, I'm praying we draft VJ if we don't get top 4. Yeah, I'm really coming around to VJ Edgecombe, man. VJ, come on. Yeah, those 2 names just keep coming up, but I'm sure there's going to be 16 other names that come up between now and the trade deadline after Pen Dance is over. Obviously, to those of you who do not know, Pen Dance is coming up February 27th to March 2nd. I finally got rolling on Pen Dance prep yesterday. I finally started working on it. Like, not necessarily finally started working on it, but I finally got rolling on it. Got a lot of the stuff done, and I'm going to continue rolling on it after this live. I'm going to be just keeping an eye on the Super Bowl, but I won't be watching the whole Super Bowl. Definitely watching the halftime show. Told on myself right there, but yeah. So yes, I appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much, KP. But yes, I am praying that we draft. I'm praying we draft a good player. I wonder how VJ fits in to all of this. I mean, certainly you don't think about fit, but VJ plus Jacoby plus Scottie plus Brandon Ingram plus, you really are setting yourself up for like a bit of a logjam here. I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. And there's a lot of big wings in this draft. Colin Murray-Boyles, if the Raptors fall really far in the draft, right? I mean, I just want to point out that this draft is so much stronger than the previous draft. It's really nuts. Kaman Malawach. Okay, according to NBA Draft Room, this is one website, but it's a pretty good website, and they do a pretty good job of keeping it nice and up to date. Kaman is currently the 15th ranked player. Colin Murray-Boyles is currently the 31st ranked player for them. Dink Pate is currently the 45th ranked player for NBA Draft Room. Do you know that all 3 of those players would have been in contention for like a top 5 pick had they come out last year? Dink was really, really like, given the dearth of talent in this draft, I would not be surprised if the Detroit Pistons would have taken him over Ron Holland. Again, like the Raptors have 2 picks. Granted, one of those is decidedly going down because of the Portland Trailblazers continuing to win basketball games. But let's take a really, really brief look at Tankathon because I want to see where we're at after this game. But hang on one second. Okay, so the Raptors are 1.5 games back of Charlotte, and they are 2.5 games ahead of Brooklyn. They've lost 4 straight. They're 5-5 in their last 10. At one point, the Raptors were 8-2 over the last 10. So clearly we're trending in the right direction. That's good. And yeah, I mean, Charlotte did just lose. So, I mean, that's good, I guess. But yeah, I mean, obviously, if Utah and Charlotte and New Orleans and Washington want to hold on to this, they can. They can hold on to this. The Raptors are never going to catch those teams. But I am perfectly comfortable with a bottom 5 finish. I just do not want to let Brooklyn, Philadelphia, etc. catch up. I do want to mention the Philadelphia 76ers just lost today. And you won't believe they lost to the Giannisless Bucks. Giannisless. That's right. With Joel Embiid, with Tyrese Maxey, and with Paul George. You know, I usually say it later. Maybe I don't say it as often, but I'm usually not wrong. I'm usually early. Nick Nurse is going to get fired. 100% Nick Nurse is going to get fired. I am positive Nick Nurse is getting fired. And honestly, I don't like him, so I'm perfectly fine with it. Get used to it, buddy. Yeah. And you know what? I'll take the L. I was actually pretty optimistic about the Paul George fit in Philadelphia. I never in a million years expected that to go as badly as it has. Resident One with the $2 super chat. Thank you very much. Preach. Oh, and hit the like button. Subscribe. Awesome. Thank you so much, Resident One. I am quite positive that about 15 minutes ago, we ended up losing like 60 people because of the Super Bowl. So I'm going to cut this one short. Hopefully this was deep. Hopefully this was interesting. Hopefully we covered a lot. The tank rolls on. The Raptors do not play tomorrow. They play again on Tuesday. Let me just take a look and guide you through the schedule a little bit and see what's coming up for the Toronto Raptors. They have a really, Rob, Super Bowl pick, Chiefs. Okay, so yeah, they got Philly next. Oh, shit. I mean, if we have our guys back, we beat Philly. But if we selectively tank, we're at Philly. So we're going to Philly. If Embiid plays, I'm just like, if I'm Scottie Barnes, I'm showing up to that game with a helmet, honestly. But like Jonathan Mobo versus Joel Embiid will be nasty. Also, it is worth noting that Mobo did roll his ankle today. He may be out. We don't know. Then they have Cleveland, Miami, Phoenix, Boston, Indiana. That's a tough way to close out the month. Then they got Chicago, Orlando. So really, the losing or the inevitable winning, which is losing for the tank, starts right here. This is the disaster zone that we have been anticipating the whole time. These are really bad teams. They're like all really bad teams. That's a really, really tough schedule to try and like, you could so easily pick up like 10 additional wins right here. You need to take all of these losses. I don't care if Schengen and Amen Thompson, like it was so clear to me that the Raptors were tanking in the fourth quarter. So it's nice that they understand the mission, but the Raptors have never been shy about tearing it down in the final months, man. They've never been shy. So come, that Philadelphia game, like maybe they'll put their starters. I wouldn't be surprised if they selectively like try to play Brandon Ingram like right here. Maybe like right here. Sorry. Like maybe they try to play Brandon Ingram right here. Like that 5-game stretch and then just shut him down for the season. And then slowly shut down everybody else too. Like just maybe play quickly, minutes restriction. especially on those road games. Like, I realize you got Washington and Washington back to back at home. That's nuts. But yes. Also, yes, I will be at this game Sunday, March 23rd. Do I selfishly hope that Scottie Barnes and Brandon Ingram will play in that game? Hell no. No, I don't. I care much, much more about the process of the tank than my own personal enjoyment. Please take after my selflessness. Okay. Death 4K, by the way, guys, is Grady injury bad? I see it's neck based. It was a contusion, which is a fancy word for a bruise. He has a bruise on his neck. I think he'll live. And also, I think that it's worth noting that he passed the first layer of concussion protocols. Do you see a possibility where Jerry Stackhouse returns as part of the Raptors coaching staff now that Brandon is part of the team and looking to sign long term? No, probably not. But that would be cool. Although we don't really need that. Like, I don't really need any like personal favors or whatever. That didn't work so well with Pascal and Rico Hines. That always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But yeah, Jerry was great for the Raptors. Anyways, I say all of this to say we move. You know, tough loss for the Raptors, but really, I mean, I'm sure most of you were rooting for that loss anyway. Yes, tank. And the Raptors are about to be back, man. The Raptors are building good habits. Their young players are playing well. Jacoby Walter certainly did not look like a 19th pick in a weak draft to me. He looked like a lottery pick from, you know, a medium draft to me tonight. And, you know, Jamal Shead certainly didn't look like a 45th pick from a weak draft either. So I think the Raptors did so well in a weak draft. I can't wait to see what they'll do with a strong draft. Like, that could be really cool. And, you know, lock up those contracts. Obviously, these players are not perfect. Jameson Battle, whatever. There's a lot of work to be done. But I love that, you know, thing that Caleb Gray brought up on the broadcast where she said he's not complacent. He's not complacent, right? So, anyways, I continue on, and I want to issue a little bit of a inspirational note, not inspirational note, challenge, not really a challenge, reminder to the fourth quarter gang. You know, we started this journey out together before the year started, the fourth quarter gang, and I want to let the fourth quarter gang know that I am keeping up my promise of no sugar. I'm very, very proud of myself. So I promised myself that leading into Penn Dance, that I would be a healthier person, that I would go to the gym, that I would stop eating bullshit food, because obviously when I get stressed out with Penn Dance, I tend to eat bullshit food. I eat chocolate bars. And I remember last year going into Penn Dance, I had my girlfriend go to Dollarama and get me like 18 Hershey bars. That's not good, man. That's not going to help you. So I decided, you know, 30 days prior to Penn Dance that I was going to go on a bit of a challenge to meet Penn Dance as my best self. And that included no sugar. And so, you know, of course, I'm having sugar via apples and I'm having sugar via bananas. But I want to take y'all through what I actually ate today, because that's exactly what you want to hear on a basketball podcast. I ate a kale salad with shredded chicken, tomatoes, green onions. It was very yummy. I ate 2 bananas, an apple, and I ate granola with no sugar. I'm very proud of myself. And you know what? I think I feel about as clear and as about concise and as happy as I've felt in a long time. It's been really good for me. Sugar sucks. It's really bad for your brain. And I'm not judging anybody who eats it. Lord knows I've eaten copious amounts of it in my life. But I remember, you know, being a kid and having this shit shoved in my face and thinking that it was a reward for everything. And unfortunately, you know, you eat your vegetables, you'll get the cake. And, you know, you start to think it's a good thing. I'm getting it to do something bad, which is eating the vegetables, but actually the vegetables are really good for you. And, you know, green beans. And one thing I'll share with you, my skin has started to look a lot better. I haven't been ID'd. So I used to get ID'd all the time. I used to be very proud of that. Like, even when I was 32, 30, 32, 33, I would get ID'd. But as I started to get a little bit older, I was not getting ID'd anymore. And I was kind of like feeling like, okay, how old am I starting to look? Right. And lately, you know, I've been noticing I look a lot younger. Maybe not a lot younger. I mean, it's not a magic trick, but I feel better. And also, I do want to say I've been experiencing a lot of brain fog over the last 2, 3, 4 months, where small things like motor skills and remembering things, remembering names, remembering words, conciseness with my words. So I was wondering why that was, and I really wanted to change it because obviously, in my mid 30s is way too early for cognitive decline, and I thought maybe this would be a good thing for me, sleep a little bit more, drink a little bit more water, and, cut out sugar. I can tell you cutting out sugar the first time I did it was right around the pandemic. And I loved my life after, man. I got to tell you, berries have never tasted sweeter. Bananas, uh, Tyson Bud saying, how long without sugar? So it has been, good question. It has been 13 days minus my one cheap Boston cream donut of shame. I want to say 6 days ago or 7 days ago. So yes, I stopped off at Timmy's and got a Boston cream donut with an Americano because I thought whatever, and I regretted it. But not so much. I'm cool with it. I mean, you don't need to cut out sugar completely. I just think like sometimes you need to take a bit of a detox from things, including your phone, including social media, including everything. Like I think taking a week or 2 weeks off things is good. Occasionally, even food, fasting is good for you sometimes. Anyways, just a little bit of unsolicited, random life updates. Summer Low, what's the cure for sleep deprivation? I can't tell you what the cure is. I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you certain things that will certainly help you. Not looking at your phone 2 hours before you go to bed, cutting out the blue light from your phone, making sure that, I think noise machines help certain people. They certainly help me. Keeping like a low vibration fan on or something like that can sort of drown out some of the creaks and stuff that can keep you up at night. Turning your alarm around, so that little light is not emitting. Wearing a mask, wearing one of those blindfold things, whatever, sleep masks, that can help. I think taking a warm bath before bed can also help you. If it can put you to sleep, kind of bring that. Not drinking coffee afternoon, that can certainly help. And having a bedtime routine. Try, have and also, I know some people don't have the luxury to do this, but it helps if the place you sleep, that's the only thing you do when you're there. Like if you work, sleep, eat all in the same room, that makes it tough. But if you can have like a specific section of your house that's just for sleep and other extracurricular activities that I will not name, then you will help yourself out tremendously. Also, I would say being happy helps. Anxiety keeps us up at night. Certainly, I've had a lot of anxiety in my life. So I would say live a good life. Generally speaking, be good to people, be honest with yourself. Working out also helps. Drinking water also helps. There's a lot of things that help. Anyways, I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great one. Enjoy the Super Bowl and go Chiefs. I'm not invested at all, but I do have a perfect. I don't want to say perfect. I have a great analogy for basketball and football that I wanted to share with y'all before we get out of here. So we often compare basketball players to other basketball players, and there's no like way of comparing them beyond positions, like centers to centers, power forwards to point guards. But we can easily say that Anthony Edwards is better than Jared Allen without much, pushback from people. We can easily say that Rudy Gobert is better than so-and-so or whatever. But what happens when somebody trades 5 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert and the entire world loses their mind because they cannot understand what Rudy Gobert is as a player, if not redundant and somewhat overrated and overpaid? And I think that there needs to be a really, really great discussion about the archetypes of basketball and what is really valuable in the NBA. The other day I was on playback and I was asked Scottie Barnes versus so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. And you will be shocked at the number of players I took Scottie over. I did take some players over Scottie, and I said, they are better than him today. Players like Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the obvious ones, right? But then there were some players that I think people would be shocked that I took Scottie over. Paolo, Franz, Evan Mobley, LeBron James, which was kind of crazy, and I was trolling. But you know, it was because Scottie is this like super versatile player, and I don't see another player in this league that can switch 1 through 5, guard 1 through 5, play 1 through 5. It's such a crazy utility, and yet I was trying to describe it to my girlfriend, and she said, "You took him over LeBron." She was so upset. My girlfriend didn't even give a shit about basketball, and she was just like upset when she was watching it. She's like, "You over LeBron?" She was pissed, and I'm like, "LeBron is 40, dude. He can barely guard one position. Scottie can guard 5 positions," and it's just like, in the context of like, if 4 random players and LeBron played 4 random players and Scottie, the team with LeBron would win like easily, right? But if you just drop LeBron James onto the Boston Celtics right now, and you drop Scottie Barnes onto the Boston Celtics right now, I have a feeling that Scottie would be more effective. Or like maybe the Cleveland Cavaliers, you know, because Scottie has like this. I would trade Scottie for Anthony Davis right now. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. I've read your takes for years. And trust me, nothing you're going to say about Scottie is going to surprise me at all. But I hope you keep the same energy next year and the year after and the 10 years after that. Man, it must suck to be in a city where, you know, a player you think that little of, that you would trade him for 31-year-old Anthony Davis, who's currently on the injury reserve and is massively overpaid. Man, I try not to think about, you know, like how you see the game or how certain other people see the game. I try not to think about it. Obviously, I do think about it. You want to know how to get better sleep, Summer Low? Don't think about how Phoenix plays that, thinks about the game. 80 is a top 40 player ever. Cool. Which would make sense if he's 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Scottie Pippen is a top 40 player ever too. Would you trade for him? No. Damian Lillard is definitely a top 75 player. Would you trade for him? You might. You might. You know what I mean? Look, man, LeBron James is a top 2 player of all time. Would you trade for him? There's like peak value in a player's career is like 26, usually 25 to like 32. Anthony Davis is basically going to be 32 next year, like to start next year. You've missed the boat, man. You've missed the boat. No, man, you've missed the boat. Anthony Davis is a frequently injured player. He does not pass as well as Scottie. He's a much better defender than Scottie. I don't think he's necessarily a better offensive player than Scottie Barnes. Again, I don't think he's a better shooter than Scottie Barnes. So, yes, defensively, he is a massive floor raiser. Offensively, he's just further along, man. The best version of Scottie offensively is a better version than Anthony Davis, in my opinion. But we will see. He is the greatest pick and roller ever. Great. Do you have Kyrie Irving or do you have Immanuel Quickley? You can't even compare those two. If Scottie Barnes had Kyrie Irving to play off of, if Kyrie could be creating looks for Scottie, you would be seeing a dude finishing 80% at the rim. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, Scottie's already finishing 77-ish% at the rim. I think he'd be finishing like 82% at the rim. Like, the quality, like, look at how the Houston Rockets are struggling without Fred. Like, Fred is not some superstar level point guard. He's nowhere near the level, offensively especially, of a Kyrie Irving or a Damian Lillard or a Steph Curry. But he's like the next level down, right? Just competent point guard play. Like, do you understand how far Immanuel Quickley is from even like competent point guard level play right now? Like, it's the context of the system, man. Like, today you see Amen Thompson. He struggled across the board. It's not just because Scottie had him in jail a lot. It's because largely he doesn't have the help around him. But he still had a lot of talent. Did he not have competent NBA players? Was he playing with a whole bunch of rookies? No, he's playing with one rookie, Reed Shepherd, who was a top 3 pick, right? Was he playing with the 45th pick and the 31st pick and an undrafted guy? No. He's playing with Jeff Green. You know the current gap between Jeff Green and Jamison Battle as players? It's massive, you know? So, again, even Jalen Green, like a phenomenally talented player, very, very, inconsistent. But, A dude who could average 30 for an entire month. When has Scottie ever played with a guy who could average with 30 for a month? Oh, yeah, Pascal. And when he played with Pascal, he was 6.2 boxes minus at the age of 22 and became an all-star. You would trade that dude for Anthony Davis? Please, man. Did y'all see Mark Cuban react to this? Can I share that with you as a final thing? Did y'all see Mark Cuban's reaction to the Anthony Davis trade? Okay. I'm going to share this with you because this is a great funny note to... Here we go.
Unique situation. And so I wanted to start off with a question because you've been in, unique situations and maybe you can help. If after you left Microsoft, you found out that Steve Ballmer traded Windows 11, like the new hot operating system, for Windows 10, the Hall of Fame, but older operating system. What would you do?
I might have to hide from the press.
I know a couple other people that are in that situation.